Hello and welcome to Series 2, Episode 2 of Saturday Morning Nostalgia. So as it's Series 2, we've moved on to 2011, and as it's Episode 2, we're moving on now to the April to June quarter. So we're going to again looking at the products that were released in Paper Magic that I have access to. And there were three things in this quarter that I want to talk about. Well, first thing was the dual decks that came out, Knights versus Dragons on April the 1st. Then we saw the release of the last of the Scars of Mirrodin block, that was the set New Phyrexia on May the 13th. And then we had the first Commander product came out. At the time it was just called Commander. It came out on June the 17th. Retrospectively, a lot of people refer to it as Commander 2011. And there were 5 decks, and those were in the form of 3 colour decks, and they were shards. So we'll take a look at those. So first up, we'll have a look at the dual decks Knights versus Dragon. As I said, April the 1st. They were retailing US at $19.99. It's the 7th dual deck. They're 260 card decks. They have a tribal theme. The Knights deck was green-white and the Dragon deck was mono-red. So let's look at the rares first of all. So we have a nice foil Knight of the Reliquary there. 1 green-white creature human knight. It's a 2/2. Knight of the Reliquary gets plus Knight of the Reliquary gets +1/+1 for each land in your graveyard. Tap, sacrifice a forest or plain, search your library for a land card, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. We have Knight of the White Orchid. Knotvine Paladin was in this deck. Loxodon Warhammer. Knight Exemplar. Kinsbale Cavalier. And then moving on to our non-rares, we've got Leonin Sky Hunter, White Knight, Knight of Meadowgrain, Silver Knight, Wiltleaf Cavaliers, Cabiria Vindicator, Alaborn Cavalier, Juniper Order Ranger, Paladin of Prav, some non-creature spells here, Harm's Way, these are all uncommons, Reciprocate, Test of Faith, Reprisal, Heroes Reunion, Griffin Guide, and then our uncommons, back to creatures, Caravan Escort, Lionheart Maverick, there's a couple of those, Knight of Cliffhaven, 2 of those, Steward of Valerian, Zal Furin, I think that is, Commander. I've got an uncommon there again, I must have got that muddled up. Benelish Lancer, Skyhunter Patrol, Plover Knights, Mighty Leap, so now our common non-creature spells, Edge of Autumn, Sigil Blessing, Spider Silk Armour, Oblivion Ring was in here, and then we had some non-basic lands, Treetop Village, couple of grasslands in here, and a Sajiri Steep, Selesnya Sanctuary, a couple of those, and then our regular basic lands. So this is a green-white deck. So we've got our plains and our forests. So our green-white Knight deck, and then our mono-red Dragons deck. The foil lead card in this was Bogardan Hellkite, which is a 6/2 reds 5/5 creature dragon with flash and flying. Whenever Bogardan Hellkite enters the battlefield, it deals 5 damage, divided as you choose among any number of target creatures and or players. So our other rares were Voracious Dragon, which has Devour on it, Mordant Dragon, Shivan Hellkite, Thunder Dragon, Kilnmouth Dragon with Amplify on it, Dragon Speaker Shaman, so we're now moving on to our uncommon creatures, Dragon Whelp, so a couple of those, Henge Guardian, which is an artifact creature Dragon Worm, Dragon's Claw was one of our uncommon non-creature spells, Breath of Dorigaz, I think that is, Punishing Fire, Captive Flame, Temporary Insanity, Shiv's Embrace, Cone of Flame, Jaws of Stone, and our common creatures, Skirt Prospector, Cinderwall, Bloodmark Mentor, and then we've got some common creatures here, Firebelly Changeling, Munbutton Torch Runner, two of those, Begarden Rager, Armillary Sphere is in here, there's a couple of those, which allow us to search out for basic lands, Dragon Fodder, two of those, Spitting Earth, Ghostfire, Seismic Strike, Seething Song, Claws of Valakut, Fiery Fall, a couple of those, and then obviously our mana base being mono red, we've got all mountains here, and there's a number of pieces of artwork here. I think it's 4 types of artwork in here, and at the very back, and you would have seen that from one of the spells in here, we're generating goblin tokens, so we've got a couple of goblin tokens basically in there. So that was our dragons deck. Now, just as a point of reference, what I'm going to do is have a look at the sort of guide insert for this, for playing the deck. So you can get a feel for what sets were pulled from, because again, remember, with these dual decks, what you're primarily going to see, and I know in some product what they'll do is they will insert upcoming cards, but the bulk of these cards are going to be like from sets from the past. So if we look at this would be the Knights deck. We've got stuff from Rise of the Eldrazi, Guild Pack, Lorwyn, Shards of Alara, Mirrodin Besiege, Scourge, the core set, and more Alaris block, Invasion, Mirage. So these are all over the place. Shadowmoor, Conflux, Rise of the Eldrazi again, Morningtide, Mirrodin, Cold Snap, Dissension. Yeah, all over the place really, just looking through this. The lands, we've got stuff coming from Mirage and Worldwake and Ravnica and Urza's Legacy and 10th edition. With the dragons, again, stuff coming from all out throughout Magic's history. Weatherlight, Onslaught, Shadowmoor, Lorwyn, Scourge, Acadian Mask, Time Spiral, Conflux, Worldwake. There's the Saga, the start of 1999 set. More Conflux, Darksteel, Invasions, Endikar, Mirage, Saviours, Mirrodin, Torment. There's the Saga and Shadowmoor. So a real good cross section of cards from throughout Magic's history, which is what you would sort of expect in the dual deck product. Very much is a sort of nostalgia product. You do get some instances where, because of the prevalence of a certain tribe or a certain theme, some of the cards will tend to gravitate around a certain set. But in this case, as you can see, lots of stuff from lots of different sets. Okay, so that was the Knights versus Dragon dual decks from April the 1st. Don't have much more to say on that particular product, so let's look at the actual set that came out. So last of the Scars of Mirrodin block. This was new Phyrexia. So we finally discovered that the Phyrexians had gained the upper hand. And the set obviously reflects that. So this came out May the 13th, 175 cards, so relatively small set. 60 commons, 60 uncommons, 35 rares, 10 mythics. Again, they did that thing with the basic land where they did actually include 10 basic lands in the set, which is unusual for a set which isn't the first of the block. And they did that, excuse me, again for flavour reasons. They also did the thing with the watermarks. As I've mentioned before, a lot easier to see the watermark on a foil than it is on a regular card, but it is there. And this was in addition to the set symbol. And because this is new Phyrexia, as you would expect, there are a lot more Phyrexian watermarks this time round than Mirren. So in the first set there were more Mirren than Phyrexia. In the middle set it was about 50-50, and in the end set we've got more Phyrexian symbol watermark symbols than we have Mirren. I think pretty much things were unchanged in terms of the product that was available when compared to the previous set. So 16, 15 card boosters, however you want to look at it. So 15 actual magic cards, and then the 16th was some sort of promotional card or a token or a how to play tips and tricks. 6 card boosters, 5 intro packs, 2 event decks and a fat pack, which again I opened. The themes and mechanics, so colour artifacts for a thing still, golems, and Phyrexian mana was a new thing. So let's see if we can see a card with Phyrexian mana. So here's a good example, Porcelain Legionnaire. In fact, let's just get this out. This is quite a nice foil. So I think this is the only card on this front page. So if we bring this up to the camera, how clearly that's coming out. Okay, so 2 and a Phyrexian mana. So the Phyrexian mana part can be paid with either white, in this case white, because it's white Phyrexian mana, or 2 life. And that was the same with other colours. So if this had been a blue card, say, it would be 2 and a blue, where you could pay 2 colourless and either blue or 2 life. So pretty straightforward. So these are all the rares and foils that I pulled out of fat packs, and I've probably opened a couple more boosters as well in here. Before I do that, I'm going to have a quick look at the player's guide. So as with most player's guide for a set, you get a backstory about the Phyrexian triumph, some world building stuff, the different factions, and also how the if you like, the overrun by the Phyrexians and their impact on the different colours, what sort of themes that has instilled in those colours. So with white aligned Phyrexia, you know, what the core purpose is, and what sort of visual clues there might be in relation to that. Blue aligned Phyrexia, black aligned Phyrexia, red, and then green. A bit about the lead planeswalker, in this case Khan. Again we get the 10 coolest cards. Khan Liberated, Phyrexian Obliterator, Urabras the Hidden, Phyrexian Metamorph, Chancellor of the Dross, Pure Steel Paladin, Mere Superior, Birthing Pod, Blighted Agent, Lice Finale. Combo Corner returned, as we saw in the last set. And then it'll go through, and we've got the card encyclopedia here. And as I mentioned, what we should find at the back is a listing of those 10 basic lands that they did for this set. Again, it's not really, I haven't got a really large film space to do this, but what would be interesting, I think I could have done, was just have the different artwork sort of lined up as the sets progressed, and you can see the sort of artwork change as that happens. But that was the idea, really. It was a thematic concept with the lands, for flavour reasons, so that you could see the sort of, well, I suppose the devolution or evolution, however you want to look at it, of Mirrodin as the Phyrexians sort of overwhelmed it, and how that affected the landscape. Okay, so let's look at some more actual cards here. So what have we got? So I mentioned in the set the themes and mechanics, colour artifacts, golems, Phyrexian mana, keywords, abilities, imprint, living weapons, infect, proliferate, and metalcraft, all things. There were some cycles. There was a cycle of chancellors, so we've got a chancellor of the annex here. This was at rare. There was also a cycle of praetors, which were at mythic, and you can hear we've got Jin Gataxius Core Arga. There was a cycle of exarchs, which were uncommon, which we'll see in a moment. Cycle of shrines at uncommon, and a cycle of soul eaters at commons. So we've got a couple of chancellors here. So Chancellor of the Annex in white, and the red one, Chancellor of the Forge. So fairly high casting costs. In fact, I'm pretty sure that they were all in, 4 and then the relevant colour. The praetors were pretty high casting costs. And another notable, so the number of notable cards, we've got Phyrexian Obliterator was one. So we got this, all in black, 4 black, creature horror, 5/5 trample. Whenever a source deals damage to Phyrexian Obliterator, that source's controller sacrifices that many permanents. So there was a sword in the set, Sword of War and Peace, artifact equipment, 3 colourless. Equipped creature gets +2/+2 and has protection from red and white. Whenever a equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, Sword of War and Peace deals damage to that player equal to the number of cards in his or her hand, and you gain 1 life for each card in your hand. Equipped for 2. Actually was lucky enough to pull the Planeswalker. I seem to remember when I opened this, the fat pack that I opened was absolutely obscene, and I'm pretty sure, I'm trying to think whether all of these were pulled from the fat pack. It's quite possible one was pulled from separate boosters, but I know at the time, it was just a ludicrous amount of mythics in that particular fat pack from what I can remember. Another interesting card was that I pulled was Caged Sun. So this is the 6 colourless. As Caged Sun enters the battlefield, choose a colour. Creatures you control of that chosen colour get +1/+1. Whenever a land ability adds 1 or more mana of the chosen colour to your mana pool, add 1 mana of that colour to your mana pool. Anybody that played that has played that in EDH Command and just knows how strong that card is. And again on the foil cards you can see fairly clearly that watermark there. So yeah, I've got some pretty nice, there's imprint again. So if you remember with imprint, so on this one, when Phyrexian Ingester enters the battlefield, you may exile target non-token creature. Phyrexian Ingester gets +X/+Y, where X is the exiled creature's card's power and Y is its toughness. So again, this idea of sort of with the whole Phyrexian thing of grabbing these abilities, these aspects of other cards, and like imprinting them. So we see it on Invader Parasite, but slightly different guy. So same sort of principle when it enters the battlefield. You exile a target land, and whenever a land with the same name as the exiled card in the battlefield under an opponent's control, Invader Parasite deals 2 damage to that player. There we also, on Molten Steel Dragon, we also have Phyrexian mana on the activation cost here. So we have fire breathing, but with a, obviously a single can be paid with a single red or with 2 life. That's that one. Let me just pull out some commons and uncommons and maybe have a look through that, because it's always nice. One thing to look at the encyclopedia and quite something else to actually see some real cards. So let's try and get sorted out here. I'm going to zoom in a little bit as well because that will help. In fact, let's just move this out of the way completely. I think much better thing to do. Lots of things to look at on this particular set. I've got a couple of intro packs I want to show you. I didn't get an event deck for this set. I don't think I was particularly interested in an event deck at that point. So we've got, make sure this is straight on camera, so we can see what's in white here. We've got Apostle's Blessing, pulled a few of those. So these are the commons and uncommons that I pulled. Auric Survivors, Dispatch, Due Respect, a couple of those, Force Worship, Inquisitor Exarch. These are the Exarch, there was a cycle of these, Lost Leonin, Loxodon Convert, Marrow Shards, Remember the Fallen. So this is actually a card which does have a Mirren watermark on it. I don't know how clearly you can see that. Pulled a few of those. It's quite a small set, so we're going to see lots of duplicates at common. Sensor Spike, Splicer, Shattered Angel, Shriek Raptor, Flying in Effect, Sutra Priest, War Reports. So yeah, just while I'm going through these notable cards, so Phyrexian Obliterator, which we've seen. There was a Sword of War and Peace, which we looked at. Etch Monstrosity, Elish Norn, Grand Cenobites, one of the traitors. Mental Misstep was in here. Gitaxian Probe, Dismember and Birthing Pod. So we'll keep on open for that, anything like that. Argent Mutation, Arm with Ether. Blighting Agent was an interesting thing. So we got an infect creature with unblockable on here. Pretty annoying. Chain Throat Seeker, Defensive Stance, Corrupted. So there's the Gitaxian Probe. So this single blue Phyrexian mana, so we can pay that with either blue or 2 life. Look at a target player's hand, draw a card. Impaler Shrike, pulled a load of those. Numbing Dose, Psychic Barrier, Spine Thopter, Spire Monitor, Vapor Snag, and a Wing Splicer. So moving to black, commons and uncommons, which I have in my possession. Blind Zealot, Caress of Phyrexia, Dementia Bat, excuse me, Dismember. So that's, I think, another one I mentioned. So that was uncommon. 1 and 2 Phyrexian mana. So you could pay for this with 1 and 4 life, or 1 and 2 black. Target creature gets -5/-5 until end of turn. And I pulled a couple of those. Enslave is in here. Entomber Exarch, Yeah, I mentioned there was a cycle of Exarchs at uncommon. This is the one in black. Evil Presence. Guess Verdict. Grim Affliction. It's got Proliferate on it. Mortis Dogs. Parasitic Implant. Pith Driller. Toxic Nim. There's Vault Scourge. White and black 1/1 flying lifelink. And that can get super annoying in the right deck. And Whispering Spectre was in here. I was interested in Spectres. I did I think a deck one time. Was it called No Hand No Land? Which had Hypnotic Spectre in it. So with the Spectres, there's always some sort of discard element on these, I think. So 1 and 2 black, 1/1, flying infect. Whenever Whispering Spectre deals combat damage to a player, you may sacrifice it. If you do, that player discards a card for each poison counter he or she has. So there's some sort of twist on discard on a lot of Spectres. Moving on to red. Active Aggression, Artillerize, Flameborn Viron, I think that is. Furnace Scamp. Just trying to make sure these are on camera okay. Ogre Menial. Priest of Urabrask. Razor Swine. Ruthless Invasion. Quite a few of those. Scrapyard Salvo. Slash Panther. There's another Exarch, Tormentor Exarch. Victorious Destruction, Volt Charge. So it's a 2 in a red with a Lightning Bolt and a Proliferate bolted together on there. Volshark Refugee, Whip Flyer. Whip Flare, sorry. Next up, green. Corrosive Gale. Deathwood Cobra, a few of those. Listener Elf. 1 for 1/1 with Infect. Or, sorry, a 1/1 for 1 with Infect. Leeching Bite. More Splicer, so there's a mutagenic growth in here. Rotted Hystrix. Thundering Tanadon. So you can see how much Phyrexian mana there was in the set. Spinebiter. Viridian Harvest. Viridian Betrayers. Vital Splicer, a couple of those. You can see there's one where Golems matter. When Vital Splicer enters the battlefield, put a 3/3 colourless Golem artifact creature token onto the battlefield. 1, regenerate target Golem you control. So let's see what was it uncommon in the artifact section. Uncommon and common. So Alloy Mirror generated 1 mana of any colour to your mana pool. Okay, so that's 3 for a 2/2. Oops, let me get that on camera. Binding Soul Eater. Conversion Chamber. Darksteel Relic, so Indestructible was a thing in this set. Gremlin Mine. Hovermere. Immolating Soul Eater. I mentioned there was so this is another one of these Soul Eaters at common. So I'm assuming these must have had on colour activation costs from what I can remember. Insatiable Soul Eater, that was the green one. Kilnwalker, Mycosynth Wellspring, Persistent Soul Eater, so that's the black one. Phyrexian Hulk, Pristine Talisman. There's a shrine here, Shrine of Burning Rage. I mentioned there was a cycle of shrines that are uncommon. So I've got Shrine of Burning Rage, I pulled a few of those. Shrine of Limitless Power. Shrine of Loyal Legions. So the other thing is you'll notice that they cared about certain colours of spells. So the Shrine of Limitless Power was the one that cares about black spells. Burning Rage cared about red spells. Loyal Legions cared about white spells. A Surge Node. And another Soul Eater. This was the blue one, the Trespassing Soul Eater. Okay, so that was a look at the commons and uncommons that I got when I opened various boosters. So the other thing we should take a look at is a couple of intro decks that I got. So this is get this right. So the one I ended up buying, there were 5 of these. The green-white Artful Destruction, a blue-black Devouring Skies, I think it was, black-red Feast of Flesh, white-red Life for Death, and a blue-green Ravaging Swarm. As I said, there were 2 event decks for this set, but I didn't buy either of those for that. So this intro pack is intro deck is the Artful Destruction one. So we'll quickly go through this. Blade Splicer, Precursor Golem. So there's only 2 rares in these. The Blade Splicer, which is when Blade Splicer enters the battlefield, put a 3/3 colourless Golem artifact creature token onto the battlefield. Golem creatures you control have first strike. And it's Precursor Golem in here. 5 for a 3/3. When Precursor Golem enters the battlefield, put 2 3/3 colourless Golem artifact creature tokens onto the battlefield. Whenever a player casts an instant or sorcery spell that targets only a single Golem, that player copies that spell for each other Golem that spell could target. Each copy targets a different one of those Golems. Palladium Mirror, got a couple of those. We've got some Master Splicers in here. So you can see we've got a lot of artificers in here that are going to help with so it's, Golems Matter deck, Golem Tribal I suppose. A couple of Vital Splicers. There's a Garrick's Pack Leader. There's an Exarch in here in the form of Brutalizer Exarch. Golem Artisan, Stone Golem, Conversion Chamber, which spits out 3/3 colours Golem artifacts. Gold Mirror for helping with white, and there's 3 of those. Copper Mirror for helping with the green, 3 of those as well. A Sutra Priest, there's a couple of those. Sensor Splicer, Phyrexian Hulk, Maul Splicer, Giant Growth, Viridian Harvest, Mighty Leap, Forced Worship, a couple of those. Oops. Glisser's Scorn. There's a Cultivate in here. There's a number of cards that help with mana. War Report, a couple of those, and then our mana base. So the artwork here comes from that new Phyrexian pool of artwork. So I'm assuming we should only see. It's interesting. There's only. Is that more than 2 types of artwork? Yeah. Oh, there we go. See that one there? That's got the symbol from the other set on it. So some of this artwork's coming from, is that Mirrodin Besieged, I think? Yep. So you're able to pull from a wider pool of artwork by doing that. Oops. Okay. That was Artful Destruction. And the other one that I got over time would be this one, which is the Feast of Flesh. The Feast of Flesh was black-red, which had a foil Chancellor of the Dross. So 4 and 3 black, creature vampire, 6/6. You may reveal this card from your opening hand. If you do, at the beginning of your first upkeep, each opponent loses 3 life, then you gain life equal to the life lost this way, flying and lifelink. So that cared about having the card in your opening hand, as I believe all of the Chancellors did, from what I can remember. Tower of Calamities is in this deck, so 4, and to activate its ability, 8 tap, Tower of Calamities deals 12 damage to target creature. Prodigal Pyromancer's in here, Tormentor Exarch, a couple of those. There's Entomber Exarch in here. We have Despise, Shrine of Burning Rage, a couple of those. Whip Flare, go for the throat. Enslave, Ichor Explosion. So you can see, although quite a few of these cards come from the new Phyrexian set, there's also cards from other sets in the block. Furnace Scamp, Blisterstic Shaman, that's from Mirrodin Besieged, a couple of those. Phyrexian Rager, there's a couple of those. There's a Blister Grub, which comes from Scars of Mirrodin, 2 of those. Scoria Elemental, Caustic Hound, a couple of those. Flameborn Viren, 2 of those. We've got a Disentomb from the core set at the time, M11. A Fling from the core set. Geth's Verdict, a couple of those. Morbid Plunder, Parasitic Implant, Artillerize, a couple of those, and then our mana base is basic lands, and those are artwork pulled from Mirrodin Besieged and New Phyrexia. And so we should see our swamps first, and then, because it's a black-red deck, our mountains. I suppose this is handy. We sort of get to see the 2 different artworks from the previous set and this set, where each had 10 basic lands included in the set. Okay, so there we have it. That was our Feast of Flesh from Phyrexia, the black-red one. Okay. So that's all I really want to talk about with the set that came out. So the next thing, and I suppose the thing that I was most excited about that year, because there hadn't been a product like this in paper before, we have the, if we can get them all on camera here, we have those lovely 5 Commander decks. So the EDH format had been around for quite a while, and obviously Wizards wanted to monetize on that, wanted to leverage that. So the way they did it was they renamed the format so they wouldn't run into any problems with using Elder Dragon Highlander as a branding. and called it Commander. And this came out on June the 17th of 2011. Now, here's a interesting bit of information if you're into this. There was a Commander product that came out before then that Wizards released, but it wasn't released in paper. It was released online. And at some point in the future, once I've got all the cards, or as many of the cards as I want to spend money on, because there's one card that's quite expensive, I'm going to do an in-paper thing. Now, I have some of the stuff here, so as a teaser, here's the deck I'm working on. So basically what they did was, I think it was like probably the previous year or so, I don't know how far back, but they actually released a online only, or two online only Commander decks. One of which was Zera Arian. It was a black, red, green deck. And I've sort of started to put this together. I'm missing a few cards, but at some point I'm going to do a video. I'll mention what the other deck was, and we'll go through that, and maybe that'll turn into a series, because you can imagine at the time it came out it probably wasn't as well tuned as it could have been, but there's some really interesting cards in there. There's some I think there's some dredge stuff in there. It took an interesting angle, but you have to bear in mind that when it came out, it was, what was the prevailing pattern of thought, as in terms of building EDH decks. Commander decks at that time would be different, slightly different than what it is now. So these were, going back to the actual Commander product in 2011, the 5 precons for multiplayer. They were wedge colours. What they did, which I thought was neat, was you had this lead commander, then there was an alternate commander, and then they also included the relevant planar chaos dragons, which were in the wedge colours. There was also some enemy colour legends in here. There were some vows, and there was a thing called joined forces. So what they've tried to do with a lot of the Commander product is they've tried to introduce something new. There was also new cards introduced in here as well. The decks were Heavily Inferno, Mirror Mastery, Counterpunch, Political Puppets, and Devour for Power. You've seen one of these decks when I opened the anthology stuff, but I'm going to open this again anyway if you've not watched that video. And I'm not going to read out all the cards here, but I am going to show you what was in the deck, just so you can get a feel, see what the different rarities were in here. You're going to notice with this particular product a heavy percentage of rares and mythics, just because of the nature of Commander and the sort of cards that it appeals to. Okay, so Kalia of the Vast was, for want of a better word, the lead commander. Tariel, Reckoner of Souls, was the alternate. So maybe I will read out the actual the commanders and the alternates. So Kalia of the Vast, one white, black, red, 2/2 legendary creature, human cleric with flying. Whenever Kalia of the Vast attacks an opponent, you may put an angel, demon, or dragon creature card from your hand onto the battlefield tapped and attacking that opponent. Tariel, Reckoner of Souls, 4 white, black, red, 4/7 legendary creature, angel with flying and vigilance. Choose a creature card at random from the target opponent's graveyard. Put that card onto the battlefield under your control. And the Planar Chaos Dragon that you could use as a commander. 3 white, black, red, 6/6 legendary creature dragon with flying. Whenever Oros the Avenger deals combat damage to a player, you may pay 2 white. If you do, Oros deals 3 damage to each non-white creature. So going on, what other rares and mythics did we have here? Voice of All, Bassandra Battle Seraph, Fallen Angel, Mana Charged Dragon with joined forces on it, Malfagor, Archangel of Strife, Angelic Arbiter, Angel of Despair, Blade Wing the Risen was in here, Avatar of Slaughter, Acroma, Angel of Fury. So in a wider way, you can see there's lots of generals, commanders in here that you could use to build other decks in specific colours as well. Once you obviously expanded your collection of commander playables. Acroma, Angel of Fury, Reviver Demon, Dread Cacodemon, Earthquake, Comet Storm, Stranglehold, Master Warcraft, Acroma's Vengeance, Mother of Ruins, Boros Guild Mage, so we're moving on to our uncommons now, Orzhov Guild Mage, Durigar Hedge Mage, Gwillian Hedge Mage, Lightkeeper of Emeria, Razorjaw Oni, Furnace Whelp, Dragon Whelp, Anger, Sierra Angel, Shattered Angel, Oni of Wild Places, Path to Exile, Bathe in Light, Mortify, Sulphurous Blast, Return to Dust, Cleansing Beam, Diabolic Tutor, Siphon Flesh, Death by Dragons, Soul Snare, Vow of Duty. So these were the vows: Vow of Malice, Vow of Lightning, Pyrrhemia, Righteous Cause, Soul Rings in here, in fact Soul Rings in all the decks, Lightning Greaves, Terminate. So these are our commons. Orim's Thunder, Wrecking Ball, Congregate, Siphon Mind, Envikar's Justice, Orzhov Signet, Rakdos Signet, Boros Signet, Armoury Sphere, Darksteel Ingot, and then moving on to our non-basic lands, Zoetic Cavern, Vivid Meadow, Arkham Refuge, Molten Slag Heap, Barren Moor. So we had cycling cards in the cycling lands in these decks. Secluded Steppe, Forgotten Cave, Bajuka Bog, Orzhov Basilica, Boros Garrison. So we got on-colour lands from the original Ravnica block. Rakdos Canarium, Rupture Spire, Command Tower was a new card. Evolving Wilds was in here, and then we got on to our basic lands, and I'm not going to go through these, but you can sort of see the artwork on the swamp there. What they obviously tried to do was pull in artwork from various sets there, and there was some in there from Ravnica. So that was the Heavenly Inferno one. That was the was it the white, black, red deck? Let me just pop this back in here before I move to the next one. So what should we look at next? Let's just go through these in colour order, I think. We're doing Mirror Mastery. I think that's next on my list. So there we go. Come out. You know what? Okay. So let's get this in some sort of order. So at least we're consistent. Okay. That's in. Right. So, Rico of Two Reflections. 2 blue, red, green. legendary creature, human wizard. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, you may pay blue-red. If you do, copy that spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. Whenever another non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay green-blue. If you do, put a token that's a copy of that creature onto the battlefield. The alternate one was Animar, Soul of Elements, blue, red, green, 1/1, legendary creature elemental, protection from white and black for black. Whenever you cast a creature spell, put a +1/+1 counter on Animar, Soul of Elements. Creature spells you cast cost 1 less to cast for each +1/+1 counter on Animar. And then Init, the Dreamer. This was the playing a Chaos Dragon, 3 blue, red, green. Legendary creature dragon, 6/6 flying. Whenever Init the Dreamer deals combat damage to a player, you may pay 2 and a blue. If you do, exile the top card of your library face down. You may look at that card for as long as it remains exiled. You may play that card without paying its mana cost for as long as Init remains on the battlefield. So now we go through our rares first and our mythics. Garrett Wild Speaker's in here. Magus of the Vineyard. Edric Spymaster of Trest. Conundrum Sphinx. Hydra Omnivore. Simic Sky Swallower. Avatar of Fury. Whoops. I'm in a bit of a mess now. Let's just try and do this the same way I did it before. So at least then the right way up. Okay. Trench Gorger. Magmatic Force. Ruination. Chain Reaction. Disaster Radius. Call the Skybreaker. Collective Voyage. Prophetic Bolt. Homeward Path was put this up near the top because it was actually a rare non-basic land. Veteran Explorer. So moving on to our uncommons. Rapacious One. Spite Bellows. Dreadwood Treefolk. Elvish Aberration. Baloth Woodcrusher. Nuck Larvae. That is Nuck Larvae. Artisan of Kozilek. Tribute to the Wild. Vow of Wildness. Vow of Flight. Vow of Lightning. So I think all the vows were basically in the deck for the relevant colours, but we'll see. Savage Twister. Spell Crumple. Electrolyze. Fire Spout. Explosive Vegetation. Fire and Ice. Death by Dragons. Vengeful Rebirth. Soul Ring. So now we've got Lightning Greaves as well. So our commons: Fierce Empath, Chartreuse Cougar, Ether Snipe, Valley Rannet, Fault Grinder, Crozen Tusker, Brainstorm, Colossal Might, Invigorate, Ray of Command, Hunting Pack, Hull Breach, Cultivate, Kadama's Reach, Armillary Sphere, our Signets, Gruul Signet, Izix Signet, and Prophetic Prison, and Simic Signet, and our non-basic lands, Kazandu Refuge, Vivid Crag, Vivid Creek, Vivid Grove, Fungal Reaches, Temple of the False God, Simic Growth Chamber, Izzet Boiler Works, Gruul Turf, Rupture Spire, Command Tower, Evolving Wilds, Islands, and again I'm not going to go through this, so this had islands, forests, mountains. I won't go through those individually. Now one thing you'll notice is there were certain non-basic lands where they did include the whole cycle. In other instances, which I quite liked, they didn't do that for some of the non-basic lands. They sort of included a different type of non-basic land in the different decks, which I thought was quite cool. But some things repeated, like they tended to include all of the Ravnica lands from that block and the cycling lands. So where did we get to? So we'll do Counterpunch next. He's just fixing. Okay. So some of these I may have got the lead commander and you'll turn it around the wrong way, but it doesn't really matter too much. And we're just going through these cards. Garve Guru of Spores, 2 black, green, white, legendary creature, Fungus Shaman, 0/0. Garve Guru of Spores enters the battlefield with 5 +1/+1 counters on it. 1, remove a +1/+1 counter from a creature you control. Put a 1/1 green sapling creature token onto the battlefield. 1, sacrifice a creature. Put a 1/1 counter on target creature. Okay. Carador Ghost Chieftain, 5 black, green, white, legendary creature, Centaur Spirit. 3/4. Carador Ghost Chieftain costs 1 less to cast for each creature card in your graveyard. During each of your turns you may cast 1 creature card from the graveyard. And the dragon from Plane of Chaos was Teneb the Harvester. 3 black, green, white, flying. When Teneb the Harvester deals combat damage to a player, you may pay 2 black. If you do, put target creature card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. Scavenging Ooze. So we now move on to our Mythics and Rares first. Spawn Writhe, Dark Hatchling, Hornet Queen, Vishkal Blood Arbiter, Symbiotic Worm, Celestial Force, Chorus of the Conclave, Alliance of Arms, Hex, Hour of Reckoning, Stormherd, Awakening Zone, Attrition, Acorn Catapult, Golgari Guildmage, Selesnya Guildmage, Nantuko Husk, Vampire Nighthawk, Spike Feeder, Schoolmonger, Sigil Captain, Shriekmore, so we're moving on to our uncommons, Tribute to the Wild, Afterlife, Mortify, Cobra Trap, Nemesis Trap, Harmonize, Siphon Flesh, Bestial Menace, Death Mutation, Soul Snare, Necrogenesis. So our vows: Vow of Wildness, Vow of Duty, Vow of Malice. Aura Shards is in this deck. Skull Clamp's also in here. Soul Ring again. Lightning Greaves. Astrostrand Spider. So these are our commons. Deadry Recluse. Sakura Tribe Elder. Monk Realist. Selesnya Evangel. Fertilid, Yavimaya Elder, Penumbra Spider, Doomblade, Footbottom Feast, Fists of Ironwood, Oblivion Rings in this deck, as is Cultivate, Darksteel Ingot, and then we've got the Signets, Selesnya Signet, Orzhov Signet, Golgari Signet, Temple of the False God, Vivid Meadow, Vivid Marsh, Vivid Grove, Secluded Steppe, Barren Moor, Tranquil Thicket. And we have some slipperiness going on here. Let's move that out of the way. Tranquil Thickets and our Ravnica lands. Orzhov Basilica, Selesnya Sanctuary, Golgari Rock Farm, Evolving Wilds. You can see Evolving Wilds, Rapture Spire and Command Tower in all of the decks. And then just fan out the land here. Black, green, white. Okay. So that was our next. So we've just got 2 more decks to look at. So there was a red, white, black deck. So our next show, or next wedge I should say. Right, Zedru the Great-Hearted. 1 red, white, black, 2/4 legendary creature, Minotaur Monk. At the beginning of your upkeep, you gain X life and draw X cards, where X is the number of permanents you own that your opponents control. Red, white, blue, target opponent gains control of target permanent you control. Ruhan of the Fomori. 1 red, white, blue, 7/7 legendary creature, giant warrior. At the beginning of your combat on your turn, choose an opponent at random. Ruhan of the Fomori attacks that player this combat if able. And then the Planar Chaos Dragon was Nomot the Devastator. 3 red, white, blue, flying. Whenever Nomot the Devastator deals combat damage to a player, you may pay 2 red. If you do, destroy up to 2 target lands. Okay, so moving to our rares and mythics. Nin the Pain Artist, Broin Stoutarm, False Prophet, Windborn Muse, Dominus of Fealty. These are interesting cards from that sort of period in Magic. Was it Lorwyn Block and was it Eventide? Chrome Shell Crab, Arbiter of Knoll Ridge, Flusterstorm, Trade Secrets, Chaos Warps in here, Oblation, Wild Ricochet, Reigns of Power, Crescendo of War, Martyr's Bond, Austere Command, Insurrection, Howling Mine, Champion's Helm, Goblin Cadets, Spawn Mage Advocate, Spawn Mage Advocate, it's funny, Fog Bank, Wall of Omens, so we're on to our uncommons, Jotun Grunt, Azorius Guild Mage, Court Hussar, Gomazoa, Guard Gomazoa, Videlcon Plotter, Plume Veil, that is, Wall of Denial, Flame Tongue Kavu, Rapacious One, Is It Chronarch, Punishing Fire, Pollen Lullaby, Perilous Research, Spell Crumple, Shattering Stroke, Breath of Durigaz, Scribbling, Death by Dragons, Soul Snare, and our vows. So we've got Vow of Lightning, Vow of Duty, Vow of Flight, Ghostly Prisons in here, Propaganda, Prison Term, and then we're moving to our Soul Ring, our Fellwar Stone, so this has a Fellwar Stone in it, and a Lightning Greaves, Dreamstone Hedron. So in the different decks they sort of tried to mix up a little bit with some of the artifacts as well. Moving on to our commons, we have Brainstorm, Vision Schemes, Whirlpool Whelm, Lash Out, Repulse, Murmurs from Beyond, that is, yep, Journey to Nowhere, Armory Sphere, which seems to be in every deck, Prophetic Prism, Darkskin Ingot, and our Ravnica lands, Azorus Chancery, or Ravnica Block lands, Is It Boiler Works, Boros Garrison, Evolving Wilds, Terramorphic Expanse, Command Tower, and then our basic lands. Again, just fan these out so you can see the artwork. There we go. And finally, our Devour for Power. Right. So I really like this deck. This is fun to play. So this one had the Mimeoplasm in it. So 2 green, blue, black, 0/0 legendary creature ooze. As the Mimeoplasm enters the battlefield, you may exile 2 creature cards from graveyards. If you do, it enters the battlefield as a copy of one of those cards with a number of additional +1/+1 counters on it equal to the power of the other card. Damia Sage of Stone was the alternate. 4 green, blue, black, 4/4, Death Touch. Skip your draw step. It's a legendary creature, Gorgon Wizard. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you have fewer than 7 cards in hand, draw cards equal to the difference. And our dragon was Vorosh the Hunter. 3 green, blue, black, 6/6 flying. Whenever Vorosh the Hunter deals combat damage to a player, you may pay 2 green. If you do, put 6 +1/+1 counters on Vorosh. Skullbra the Walking Grave was in here. Riddle Keeper, Troll Aesthetic, Solemn Simulacrum. So good they put this into one of the decks. And then you notice that's what they tried to do, is sort of like even out some of the cool commander cards across the different decks. They didn't just put the same card over and over again in the decks. They did it with some of the cards, obviously, but some they just put in one deck. Of course, it meant you had to, buy all of the decks, I suppose. But I thought that was quite a good idea to do that. Sewer Nemesis, Mortivore, Lurgoyf, Dreamborn Muse, Fortress Zombie, Dark Hatchling, Rexall the Risen Deep. Also lots of legendary creatures to play around as well with. Extractor Demon, Sky Spectre, Butcher of Malakir, Patron of the Nezumi, Avatar of Woe, Sadek Lord of Secrets, Shared Trauma, Minds Aglow, Living Death, Memory Erosion, Grave Pact, Oblivion Stones in here. Triskelavus is in here as well. Nezumi Grave Robber, Fleshbag Marauder, Eternal Witness, Brawn, Wonder, Acidic Slime, Artisan of Kozilek, Tribute to the Wild, another Spell Crumple, Fact or Fiction, Stitched Together, Windfall, Buried Alive, Siphoned Flesh, Rise from the Grave, Vows, the Vow of Wildness, the Vow of Malice, and the Vow of Flight. Another Soul Ring, another Lightning Greaves, Relic Crush. So we're moving now on to our commons. Things are getting rather slippery. Let's just reposition that there. Relic Crush, Sign in Blood, Cultivate, Unnerve, Siphon Mind, and our signets: Golgari Signet, Simic Signet, Dimmer Signet, Yavimaya Elder, Gravedigger, Desecrator Hag, Moldrift is in this deck, Slipstream Eel, Temple of the False God, which has been in some of the other decks, Tranquil Thicket, Barren Moor, Lonely Sandbar, and our Ravnica Blocklands, Golgari Rot Farm, Simic Growth Chamber, Dimir Aqueduct, Joie Refuge. We've seen a few refuges in the different decks. Dreadship Reef. Sphogthos the Restless Tomb. Terramorphic Expanse. Command Tower, which is in all the decks. Rupture Spire. And then our basic lands. So again, just quickly flick through those. You can see the artwork. Very good. Okay. So that was the Duel for Power. Very much graveyard based. So there we have it. So just to recap, April to June 2011, we looked at the Dual Decks Knights versus Dragons. April 1st that came out. New Phyrexia May the 13th, and the Commander 2011 product, which came out on June the 17th. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.